The galaxy was a grand and endless ocean of light. Stars shimmered like jewels scattered upon black velvet, and among them drifted countless worlds, some rich with life, others cold and silent. For more than 3,000 years, the Galactic Empire had ruled these stars. Their banners stretched from the golden core to the dark edges of the spiral arms. Their power was unmatched, their pride unshaken. The Empire believed it had seen everything there was to see. Every planet, every race, every resource, they thought they knew it all. In their archives rested the records of thousands of intelligent species, each one bent to their will. Some served as soldiers, others as miners or traders. The Empire had united the galaxy, or so it believed. But then, one quiet cycle, something changed. It began as a whisper on the edge of space, a signal, faint and broken, carried by cosmic dust and time. It came from a forgotten region of the galaxy, one the Empire hadn't visited in centuries. At first, the scientists of the Imperial Communication Bureau ignored it. They thought it was just interference from a dying star. Yet the signal returned again, stronger this time, carrying strange rhythmic pulses that didn't fit any known pattern. Could it be a natural anomaly? One technician asked. The senior scientist frowned. No, this is structured. It's language. The word language spread through the Empire's inner circles like a storm. Soon, the Senate was filled with debate. Who had sent it? How could there be an unknown language in the age of the Empire, when every species was already under their catalog? Finally, the Emperor himself ordered a team of explorers to investigate. A fleet of 5 ships left the shining capital of Orcs and set course for the signal's origin, a small distant sector beyond the rim. The journey took weeks, then months. Messages from the expedition continued regularly at first, until they stopped. One by one, the ships disappeared. No debris was found, no distress call ever reached home. The entire fleet had vanished into the dark. The Empire sent no rescue mission. To them, it was just one lost expedition among thousands. The Senate returned to politics and trade, and the outer systems went back to their routines. The incident became a forgotten entry in the archives, a mystery no one cared to solve. But the signal did not stop. It continued for years, repeating in quiet defiance. Those who studied it noticed something strange. The rhythm grew more refined, the data more organized, as if whoever was sending it was learning, adapting, and improving. Still, the Empire ignored it. After all, they had greater concerns: rebellions to crush, taxes to raise, worlds to control. But beyond the rim, in the lonely darkness of uncharted space, a lost world was waking up. That world was called Earth. For centuries, humanity had lived in silence, far from the Galactic Empire's gaze. Their history had been full of both greatness and tragedy. Long ago, they had built their first ships, eager to explore the stars. But an early encounter with the Empire's scouts had gone terribly wrong. The humans were seen as primitive and dangerous, and the Empire wiped out their colonies near the frontier. Earth itself survived, but only barely. Humanity vanished from the Empire's maps, marked as extinct. Yet on their blue planet, beneath storms and stars, the survivors did not die. They rebuilt. They remembered. In the ruins of the old world, they found unity. Nations once divided by borders came together. Old languages mixed into one common tongue. With time, humanity became stronger, wiser, and more determined. They built new technologies, ones that made even their old science look like stone tools. They learned to harness energy from stars and fold space like paper. They sent explorers to the far edges of the void and found ancient wrecks from the Empire's early conquests. That was how they learned the truth, how their ancestors had been forgotten, how the Empire ruled over all. And so, humanity made a decision. They would return not as conquerors, but as witnesses. They built ships like no other, massive and silent, forged from light and shadow. Entire planets were turned into shipyards. Fleets were born in the black, powered by energy that bent time itself. For hundreds of years they prepared, watching and waiting. The humans did not seek revenge. They sought justice, understanding, and peace. But they knew the Empire would not offer any of those willingly. The Empire understood only power. So humanity prepared to speak in the only language the galaxy respected: strength. On Orcs, the capital of the Empire, A new day began like any other. Golden towers touched the clouds, and the streets glittered with hovercrafts and banners. The Senate Hall was full, with delegates from every world arguing about taxes, resources, and trade. The Emperor listened from his throne, bored and tired. Then the room darkened. A strange symbol appeared in the air, projected by the central hollow system. None recognized it. It was a circle crossed by a line, a symbol simple but ancient. Words followed in an unknown language echoing through the chamber. "What is this?" one senator demanded. "Whose message is this?" The technicians panicked, trying to shut down the system, but it refused. The message played again, slower this time, until translation software managed to form the first readable word in Imperial Common: humanity. Silence filled the Senate Hall. That word had not been spoken in generations. The old scholars whispered to each other in disbelief. "Impossible," one murmured. They were destroyed. But the message continued, calm and confident. The translation came through completely this time, carried across every major Imperial world. "We are returning." The broadcast ended. At first, many thought it was a hoax, some trick by rebels or pirates. But then came the reports. Strange ships seen near the frontier, unidentifiable energy signatures, colonies losing contact. The Empire sent scouts again, but like before, none returned. Fear began to whisper in the hearts of those who had never known fear. Admiral Varine Solis, commander of the Imperial First Fleet, was one of the first to take the matter seriously. A strict, intelligent leader, she had served the Empire her entire life. Yet even she felt uneasy as she looked at the data on her screen. The energy readings from the rim were beyond anything in Imperial records. "These readings can't be real," her science officer said quietly. "It's like entire stars are powering these ships." Varine didn't reply. She stared at the display, where the sensor map showed hundreds of moving dots, all heading toward Imperial space. Each dot represented a fleet. Each fleet contained power equal to half the Empire's navy. She turned to her officers. "Prepare the defense lines," she ordered. "And send a message to the Emperor. Tell him humanity has returned." In the deep darkness of space, far beyond the Empire's reach, a fleet moved in silence. Thousands of ships drifted like shadows across the stars, their hulls shining with blue light. Each vessel carried the emblem of a circle crossed by a line, the mark of Earth reborn. At the front of the armada stood the flagship Unity, commanded by Elias Kane, the first Grand Admiral of the Human Expeditionary Command. He gazed through the wide observation window, watching the distant stars grow brighter. "We are almost there," his officer said softly. "The Empire will see us soon." Kane nodded. "Let them see. The time has come." He looked out once more at the endless void, the same void that had once hidden Earth from the galaxy. Now it would reveal humanity's return. No anger filled his heart, only purpose. The humans were not coming to destroy. They were coming to remind the galaxy that forgotten things can rise again, stronger than ever. And as the human fleet crossed into Imperial space, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. The Empire had always seen itself as eternal. Its fleets ruled the stars, its leaders commanded billions, and its name inspired both pride and fear. But now whispers spread across the great halls of Orlan Prime. The humans had returned. At first, many dismissed the idea. Senators laughed at the old stories. "Humans?" they said mockingly. "Ancient myths. They couldn't possibly challenge us." But as reports came in from the frontier, the laughter faded. Entire listening posts were going silent. Patrol fleets were vanishing. The trade lanes were full of travelers fleeing toward the core worlds, carrying strange tales of ships that appeared without warning and disappeared just as quickly. The Empire in denial, Admiral Varine Solis stood on the command bridge of her warship, Imperial Glory, gazing at the holographic display before her. The stars glowed softly, each representing a world or fleet under her command. But now, at the far edge of the display, strange blue symbols were appearing. Unidentified ships, moving with impossible precision. Her officers looked uneasy. "Admiral," one of them said quietly, "scanners confirm these ships do not match any known design. Their engines emit energy levels far beyond our detection scale." Varine's jaw tightened. "Origin?" "Unknown, ma'am, but their trajectories suggest they are coming directly from the outer void." The same region the old expedition disappeared into. Vareen said nothing. The weight of those words filled the air. She remembered her studies as a young officer, the story of humanity, the lost species from a forgotten world, erased from the records of the early empire. She had always assumed it was just legend. Now she wasn't so sure. Send reconnaissance drones, she ordered, and recall all nearby fleets to defensive positions. I want every ship ready. The officers obeyed, but she could sense their fear. No one dared speak it aloud, yet every mind on that bridge shared the same question. What if humanity was real? And what if they were stronger now? First sight. The first human fleet appeared near the colony world of GalacticPrime, a rich mining planet with millions of Imperial citizens. It was an ordinary day at first. The sky was bright, the factories roared with noise, and ships moved in and out of orbit as usual. Then the light changed. The workers looked up and gasped as shadows spread across the sun. Dozens of massive ships appeared in the upper atmosphere, silent and motionless. They didn't fire, didn't speak, didn't even broadcast identification codes. They simply hung there, dark, majestic, and powerful. The governor of GalacticPrime immediately contacted the Imperial Command. Unidentified fleet in orbit, he shouted. No response to hails. Their ships, by the stars, they're enormous. Admiral Vareen received the message seconds later. Her heart pounded as she listened. She had seen hollows of alien warships before, but these were different. The human ships were sleek and elegant, with smooth metallic surfaces that shimmered with faint blue light. They didn't look built for war, they looked built for precision. Open a channel, Vareen commanded. Let's see if they respond. The communications officer worked quickly. Channel open, Admiral. This is Admiral Vareen Solis of the Galactic Empire, she announced, her voice steady though her pulse raced. You are entering restricted space. Identify yourselves immediately. For a moment there was silence. Then the entire command deck filled with a soft, echoing voice. We are the descendants of Earth. We have returned. The voice was calm, emotionless, yet heavy with meaning. Every officer on the bridge froze. The word Earth had not been spoken in Imperial space for thousands of years. Vareen swallowed hard. If this is a joke, it ends now. Identify your fleet and state your purpose. But the voice did not answer her question. Instead, it spoke a single phrase before vanishing. We remember. Then the human ships disappeared. No flash, no explosion. They simply folded into light and were gone. The growing fear the Empire's Senate gathered in emergency session. News of the encounter spread faster than light itself. Every system was talking about it. Some believed it was rebellion. Others claimed it was an ancient enemy rising again. The Emperor listened in silence as his advisors argued. They're bluffing, one senator shouted. Some hidden faction using forgotten myths to scare us. Another replied, we saw the readings. No technology in our empire can do what those ships did. The Emperor finally raised his hand. The room fell silent. His golden eyes glowed beneath the shadows of his crown. If they are truly human, he said softly, then we must understand their purpose. Send diplomats. Open contact. We will not show fear. And so a small Imperial delegation was formed. A ship named Vigilant Star was sent to the Rim, carrying envoys and translators. Their mission, to meet with the humans and open negotiations, they never returned. Weeks passed. Then months. Every attempt to contact them failed. The only trace left was a single signal, repeating across deep space. It was human speech translated by the Empire's best linguists. The message was short. We come to speak truth. Not for war, but for remembrance. The return becomes real. The Empire could no longer deny it. The humans were back. But no one could understand what they wanted. They didn't attack. They didn't claim territory. They simply appeared, observed, and vanished again. Sometimes they scanned Imperial ships, shutting down their systems temporarily before leaving. It was as if they were testing the Empire, measuring it, studying it. On every world, people began to whisper stories. Humans are the ghosts of the old galaxy, some said. Humans will destroy the Empire, others whispered. But the most common rumor of all was simple and chilling. They are not coming to conquer. They are coming to judge. Admiral Vareen's dilemma. Admiral Vareen spent sleepless nights staring at her maps, trying to understand humanity's strategy. Her ships had followed human fleets across dozens of systems, but the results were always the same. The humans would appear without warning, scan the area, and disappear before the Empire could react. It was as if they were everywhere and nowhere. During one of her long nights in the command room, she received a private transmission from an unknown source. It was encrypted in a format no Imperial system recognized. Against her better judgment, she opened it. The screen flickered and a face appeared. A human face. He looked calm, older, and dignified. His eyes were sharp, filled with a quiet strength. "Admiral Solus," he said in perfect Imperial common. "I am Elias Kane, commander of the human fleet. We have no wish for war." Varine's breath caught. What do you want from us?" Kane's expression softened. "We want the truth remembered. Long ago, your ancestors destroyed our colonies. They thought us gone, but we survived and we grew. We learned from our pain, from our mistakes, and from yours." She hesitated. "If you seek revenge," he raised a hand. "No, Admiral. We seek understanding. The Empire built an order upon fear. We wish to end that cycle." Before she could reply, the transmission ended. The signal vanished completely, leaving no trace. For the first time in her life, Admiral Varine didn't know what to do. She had fought pirates, rebels, and entire fleets, but this was different. The humans could have destroyed them already, but they hadn't. That thought disturbed her more than anything else. The Empire prepares. Despite Kane's message of peace, the Empire began to prepare for war. Massive shipyards across 100 worlds lit up with activity. Fleets were recalled. Soldiers were trained. Propaganda filled the channels. Speeches about imperial pride, strength, and unity. But beneath all the words, there was fear. Everyone knew the truth. If the humans truly wished, they could wipe out the Empire in a single day. Still, pride refused to die. The Emperor himself stood before the galaxy in a broadcast and declared, "The Empire does not kneel to myths. We will face this humanity and remind them who rules the stars." Across the galaxy, cheers filled the air, but not with confidence. With denial. The calm before the storm weeks passed. The human fleets remained silent, their ships watching from the edges of Imperial space. Sometimes they sent drones to deliver messages, short transmissions filled with coordinates and symbols. The meaning was unclear, but the locations pointed toward the ancient sectors where the Empire's first expansion had begun. Then, one night the stars changed. Hundreds of blue lights appeared across the galaxy. They were not explosions, not signals, just pure energy signatures, vast and bright. Every Imperial sensor went off at once. The human fleets were moving. They were coming. Admiral Varine stood on her bridge, staring at the incoming signals. "So it begins," she whispered. "The humans have returned, and the Empire will never be the same again." The galaxy held its breath. For weeks, the stars were filled with silence. No one dared to move, no one dared to speak. Every Imperial world, every colony, every outpost waited for what would happen next. The human fleets had surrounded the edges of the Galactic Empire, but they hadn't attacked. They were just there, vast, unmoving, like walls of light standing at the borders of history. Admiral Varine Solus didn't sleep much anymore. She stood on the bridge of the Imperial glory, her eyes fixed on the glowing symbols that represented the human armadas. Each one was powerful enough to destroy a planet, yet they did nothing. "They're waiting," she murmured. Her science officer turned. "For what, Admiral?" "For us," she replied quietly. "They're waiting for us to listen." The broadcast then, one day, it began. Without warning, every communication system across the galaxy came alive. From the smallest miner's radio to the largest Senate Hall display, the same signal appeared. A simple white symbol, a circle crossed by a line, the same symbol seen on the human ships. Across 1,000 worlds, people stopped what they were doing. They stared at the glowing symbol, feeling something ancient stir in their hearts. Then a voice filled the air, calm, deep, and unmistakably human. "To the citizens of the Galactic Empire, we are humanity. We have returned." The message echoed through every city and spaceport. Children stared at the sky. Elders whispered old stories, and soldiers lowered their weapons to listen. The voice continued, steady and clear. "Long ago, when your empire was young, it reached toward the stars with pride. In its hunger for power, it destroyed many worlds. One of those worlds was ours. You called us primitive. You called us weak. You believed we would vanish. But we did not. On Orlan Prime, the Emperor himself watched in silence as the holographic image of a human figure appeared before him, Admiral Elias Kane. His eyes were calm, his expression serious. We survived in the dark. We learned, we grew. We built a home among the stars that you could not find. For centuries we watched your empire rise and fall, your wars and your peace. We saw arrogance, but we also saw hope. A quiet murmur spread through the Imperial Senate. No one had ever spoken to them this way, not as enemies, not as servants, but as equals. We come not for revenge, the voice continued. We come to remind you. The galaxy does not belong to one empire. It belongs to all who live within it. We come to end the silence that began when you destroyed our ancestors. We come to speak truth. Then the signal ended, leaving the galaxy stunned. Reactions across the empire. The message spread like fire. Some people celebrated, saying humanity's return would bring change and justice. Others called it a threat, a warning before invasion. On many worlds, Imperial soldiers found themselves unsure whether to raise their weapons or lower them. Ordinary citizens stood under the night sky, hoping to see one of the blue human ships passing above. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor held a private meeting with his advisors. They speak of peace, one general said, but look at their fleets. That is not a gesture of peace. Another counselor disagreed. They could have attacked already. They haven't. Perhaps they really mean what they say. The Emperor remained silent, lost in thought. He had seen power before, armies, fleets, rebellions, but this was different. There was something about the human voice, something that carried truth and confidence. It was not the voice of a conqueror. It was the voice of someone who had endured. Send a message, the Emperor finally said. Request a meeting. We will hear what they have to say. The meeting in the stars days later, a small Imperial envoy ship, Golden Spirit, left Orlan Prime and traveled to the neutral zone near the rim. It carried diplomats, officers and translators, none of them sure what to expect. When they arrived, the stars before them shimmered with blue light. Thousands of human ships appeared silently, forming a vast circle around the envoy. Their presence was peaceful, but their power was undeniable. The Imperial officers felt small, like children standing before giants. A voice came through the channel. Welcome, envoys of the Empire. I am Elias Kane, commander of the human fleet. You may speak. The Imperial ambassador, an older man named Loren Tyne, stood nervously before the communication screen. Commander Kane, he began. The Galactic Emperor sends his greetings. He wishes to understand your intentions. Kane's face appeared on the screen. Calm, strong, yet kind. Our intentions are simple, he said. We do not seek war. We seek truth and balance. The Empire was built on fear and control. It is time for that to end. Loren hesitated. You accuse us of tyranny, but the Empire has brought order to the stars. Without it, chaos will return. Kane nodded slowly. Perhaps. But order built on fear is not peace. We have seen what fear does to civilizations. We learned that lesson the hard way. We do not wish to repeat it. The words struck deep. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Kane added softly, You have a choice. You can continue the path of domination, or you can build something greater. Humanity offers peace, knowledge, and cooperation. But if you choose aggression, we will defend the innocent. The transmission ended. The human ships vanished once more, leaving the Imperial envoy alone among the stars. The debate in the Empire, the return of the envoy, caused chaos across the Empire. Half the Senate wanted to accept humanity's offer of peace. The other half demanded to prepare for war. Admiral Vereen stood before the Emperor during a High Council meeting. Her voice was calm but firm. Your Majesty, I have spoken with their commander. They are not lying. They do not seek to destroy us. But if we attack them, we will lose. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You fear them? I respect them, she replied. They are what we once were, curious, united, determined. If we listen, perhaps we can learn from them. The Emperor did not answer immediately. His mind was torn between pride and reason. The Empire had ruled for ages. Could it really share power now? A warning of light 3 days later, the humans sent another signal. It was not a message this time. It was an event. Across several Imperial worlds, massive power grids shut down for exactly 1 hour. No one was harmed. No ships were damaged. But during that hour, every Imperial communication screen displayed a message in bright blue letters. Power without wisdom brings darkness. Choose your future. Then everything returned to normal. The Empire's scientists examined the incident. They found no sign of hacking or attack. The humans had somehow controlled entire planetary systems without harming a single thing. It was a display of ability but also restraint. They were saying, "We could destroy you, but we will not." The message was clear, and the galaxy listened. Voices of the people, in the lower cities of Orlan Prime, people began to paint the human symbol on their walls. Some called it the Mark of Hope. Others whispered that it meant freedom was coming. Farmers on distant colonies said that human drones had visited their worlds, repairing damaged machines and leaving without a word. Merchant ships reported being guided safely through dangerous nebulae by mysterious blue lights. Slowly, the image of humanity began to change. They were no longer seen as a threat, but as a force of balance. A mirror held up to the Empire's soul. The Emperor's realization late one night. The Emperor stood alone in his grand observatory looking at the stars. The room was silent except for the soft hum of machines. He had spent his life ruling through power and command. But now, for the first time, he felt small beneath the endless sky. He whispered to himself, "We called them extinct. We thought them gone. And yet they have returned stronger than ever, not with anger, but with purpose." He remembered the human's final words. "We will defend the innocent." The Emperor finally understood that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology. It was their heart. A galaxy awaits across the stars. Fleets waited. Armies stood ready and people watched the skies. The humans had spoken their truth. Now it was the Empire's turn to decide. Admiral Vereen looked out her window at the distant glow of the human ships. They were still there, silent, patient, like guardians of destiny. She felt both fear and admiration. "Maybe," she whispered, "this is not the end of the Empire. Maybe it's the beginning of something better." Far away, aboard the Unity, Admiral Elias Kane stood watching the same stars. His officers waited for his command. "Will they listen, sir?" one of them asked. Kane smiled faintly. "Hope is stronger than fear. Let's give them time to remember that." And as the stars shimmered above them, the galaxy waited for the dawn of a new age. An age where humanity had returned not as destroyers, but as teachers, bringing a message of strength, wisdom, and peace. The stars above the galaxy had never been so quiet. Every Imperial ship, every city, every colony waited in tense silence. Humanity's fleet stood like mountains of light along the Empire's borders, still and calm, yet powerful beyond imagination. No one knew what would happen next. On Orlan Prime, the Imperial Senate was in chaos. Debates turned into shouting matches. Some demanded that the Empire surrender to the humans and learn from them. Others insisted that the Empire must defend its honor. "Their silence is a threat," cried one senator. "They watch us like predators." "They could have attacked already," replied another. "But they didn't. That means they want peace." The Emperor listened quietly, his eyes cold and distant. He had ruled the stars for decades, but for the first time, he felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. The humans had shown no aggression, yet their very presence made the galaxy tremble. A demonstration of power in the farthest system of Korvath. The Imperial fleet stood guard, 1,000 ships armed with the latest technology. Admiral Vereen Solis herself commanded the operation. She had received new orders to protect the border but not to engage unless attacked. For days, her fleet scanned the empty space beyond the rim, waiting for movement. Then it came. Dozens of blue lights appeared in the darkness. Human ships, elegant and vast, emerged from folds of energy. Their arrival was silent, without any heat signatures or weapon locks. The Imperial crews stared in disbelief. "They're right on top of us," one officer gasped. "How do they get past our sensors?" Vereen stayed calm. "Hold positions. Do not open fire." The human ships formed a perfect circle around the Imperial fleet. No radio signal, no words, only quiet observation. Then one by one, the human vessels released waves of soft light that spread through space like ripples in water. Suddenly, every Imperial engine went dark. Every system shut down, shields, weapons, lights. Even gravity failed for a few seconds before stabilizing. "The entire fleet was powerless, Admiral," shouted her engineer. "All systems offline." "They're not attacking, but we've lost everything." Vereen clenched her fists. "No damage?" "None, ma'am. It's as if they turned us off. The human fleet remained still for 1 minute, then the lights pulsed again, and all systems returned to normal. Engines reignited, weapons came back online, and communications were restored. Before the humans vanished, a message appeared on every Imperial screen. Power means nothing if used without wisdom. And then they were gone. The galaxy reacts news of the incident spread instantly. The Empire's greatest fleets had been disabled without a single shot fired. The Senate was shaken. Citizens whispered in fear and wonder. Some said the humans were gods. Others said they were warning the Empire to change. On distant worlds, workers painted the human symbol, the circle and the line, on their walls as a sign of hope. Farmers, miners, and traders began to speak of humanity with admiration instead of fear. They could destroy us, one worker said, but they don't. Maybe they're trying to show us a better way. The Emperor watched it all unfold from his palace. He saw how people were changing. The symbol of humanity had become a light of unity, a thing the Empire had never truly achieved. Admiral Varine's realization. Admiral Varine sat alone in her private cabin aboard the Imperial Glory, staring at the stars through the wide observation window. The memory of the human fleet haunted her. The calm silence, the impossible power. The way they had shut down her ships like flicking off a light. She thought about the message. Power means nothing if used without wisdom. Was this what the Empire had forgotten? They had strength, yes, but no heart. They ruled through fear, not understanding. Her communicator beeped. A private message appeared, encrypted in the same strange format she had seen before. It was from Elias Kane. Admiral Solus, the message said, you have seen what we can do. We do not seek to rule. We seek to awaken. Your empire stands at a crossroads. Choose the path that will bring peace, not pride. Varine read the message several times. There was no threat in it, only truth. She knew then that the humans weren't enemies. They were mirrors reflecting everything the Empire had become. She stood and looked out again at the shining stars. Perhaps, she whispered, they came not to destroy us, but to save us. A test of faith. The Emperor, however, was not ready to accept this new reality. Pride still burned in his heart. They humiliate us, he shouted during a secret meeting with his generals. They think themselves gods. We cannot let them dictate our fate, one general bowed. Your Majesty, with respect, open war would be unwise. Their technology is far beyond ours. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. We have ruled for millennia. We will not bow to ghosts from the past. He gave an order that shocked the entire council. Assemble the Grand Armada. The plan was simple. Gather every available ship, form the largest fleet in history, and show the humans that the Empire would not be intimidated. It wasn't meant to be an attack, only a demonstration of strength. But deep down, everyone knew it was pride that guided this decision. The encounter days later, the Grand Armada, more than 50,000 ships, assembled near the star system Velis Prime. The fleet stretched farther than the eye could see, a wall of silver and fire. The Emperor watched from the command deck of his personal dreadnought, the Celestial Crown. His voice echoed through the communication channels. Let humanity see that the Empire still stands strong. Then, as if answering his call, the space ahead began to shimmer. Light bent and rippled as the human fleet appeared, larger than ever before. Thousands of blue ships formed in perfect harmony, their energy fields glowing like calm oceans. For a moment, both sides simply stared at each other across the stars. No weapons fired, no words exchanged. Then a transmission came through. Elias Kane's voice again. You stand before us not as enemies, but as children of the same stars. We will not fight you, but we will not let you harm others. The time of empires is ending. The age of unity begins. The Emperor hesitated. He wanted to reply, but before he could, the stars themselves began to change. Every ship's sensors went wild. Massive holographic projections appeared above hundreds of worlds across the galaxy, showing scenes from the Empire's past, planets conquered, species enslaved, cities burned in the name of power, and beside each image appeared a new one, humans rebuilding, helping, healing. It was not an attack. It was a lesson, a reminder. Billions of people across the Empire saw the truth that day. The humans weren't trying to destroy them, they were trying to open their eyes. The turning point on the Celestial Crown. Silence filled the bridge. The Emperor stared at the images in disbelief. His hands trembled slightly. How do they know all this? He whispered. Admiral Vereen, who stood beside him, said softly, "Because they lived it. They suffered as we made others suffer. They understand what we forgot." The Emperor's pride slowly melted away. For years he had ruled through power, believing it was the only way to keep order. But now, for the first time, he understood what true strength looked like. It was not destruction. It was compassion. He turned to Vereen. "What would you have me do, Admiral?" "Listen to them," she said simply. Before it's too late, the Emperor nodded. For the first time in his life, he felt peace instead of control. Then let the message be sent. The human reply moments later, the Empire sent a transmission to the human fleet. "We are ready to talk." The human response was immediate and warm. Elias Kane appeared once again, his calm face filling the screen. "Then the galaxy takes its first step toward a better future," he said. "We will meet Emperor of the Stars not as conqueror and subject, but as equals." And with that, the human fleets began to move, not toward war, but toward peace. A new dawn approaches in the following days. Across the galaxy, people began to hope again. The human symbol, once feared, became a mark of change. The Empire's citizens no longer whispered in fear. They spoke in anticipation. Admiral Vereen watched as her fleet joined formation beside the human ships. For the first time, Imperial and human vessels shared the same sky side by side, not as enemies but as partners. She smiled softly. "So this is what peace looks like." Elias Kane stood aboard his flagship, the Unity, looking out at the glittering armada of two civilizations that had once been divided. "The hardest battle," he said quietly to his crew, "is not against others, but against our own pride." And in that moment, the galaxy began to change. The Empire trembled, not from fear, but from awakening. The galaxy had never been so quiet, yet so alive. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had ruled the stars through power and fear. Now, for the first time, the galaxy's inhabitants felt something new: hope. The human fleets remained near the Imperial core, their ships a shining network of blue energy. The Imperial Grand Armada no longer aimed its weapons. Instead, it moved in formation, guided by respect and curiosity. Admiral Vereen Solis stood on the bridge of the Imperial Glory, gazing out at the endless horizon of stars. She could see the humans' massive flagship, Unity, glowing faintly against the void. It was a sight that inspired awe, not fear. "Sir," said her communications officer, "we have received another message from Admiral Kane." Vereen leaned forward. "Put it on screen." The face of Elias Kane appeared, calm and steady. His eyes carried the quiet authority of someone who had endured centuries of waiting and planning. "People of the Galactic Empire," Kane began, "we have come to remind you of what is possible when unity replaces fear. For too long the galaxy has been divided. Now we offer a new beginning." The Emperor himself appeared on the holographic display, his golden robes flowing as he listened. He had learned humility these past weeks, realizing that power alone was meaningless without wisdom. "We have seen the cost of arrogance," Kane continued. "We have seen what happens when species are forgotten, when voices are silenced. Humanity has returned not to conquer but to help. We will share knowledge, protect the innocent, and guide the galaxy toward peace." The offer of peace across the stars. Fleets listened. Citizens on countless worlds gathered, watching the display. Many wept, not from sorrow, but from the realization that a new era had arrived. The humans offered more than words. They offered action. Drones appeared on distant planets, repairing infrastructure, restoring energy grids, and helping populations that had suffered neglect or oppression. The Imperial scientists observed in wonder. Entire planetary systems, once struggling with shortages or mismanagement, were transformed by human ingenuity in days. Factories produced more efficiently, farms yielded more food, and cities began to glow with clean energy. The message was clear. Humans had the power to destroy, but they chose to build. The Empire was learning. Slowly, that true strength lay not in dominance, but in service. The Emperor's choice in the Imperial Palace. The Emperor convened a meeting of his most trusted advisors. The holographic images of human activity filled the walls. Every world that had suffered under Imperial neglect now flourished under human guidance. "We have ruled for thousands of cycles. the Emperor said softly, "and yet we have never achieved what they have in months." "How is this possible?" Admiral Vereen stepped forward. "Because they understand purpose, Your Majesty. Power without guidance is hollow. Humanity has learned from its history. They do not seek to dominate, they seek to improve." The Emperor closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his empire in a new light. For the first time, he questioned everything he had believed about leadership, control, and loyalty. Finally, he spoke. "Then let it be done. We will join them. We will learn from them. The Empire will no longer rule through fear. Let us build together." The Galactic Council. The first step toward unity was the formation of the Galactic Council, a body where representatives of all major civilizations, including humans and imperial worlds, could meet as equals. Elias Kane was appointed as a temporary coordinator, guiding discussions and helping establish fair procedures. Humans shared technology and resources but never imposed their will. Every decision was collaborative, ensuring that every species had a voice. Vereen Solis became the Empire's representative, working alongside Kane and others to bridge centuries of history and misunderstanding. Though the Empire had once ruled the galaxy alone, it now shared the responsibility of governance with wisdom, not fear. Worlds that had long been oppressed found allies in humans and in newly awakened imperial leaders. Markets flourished as trade expanded. Education systems across the galaxy were redesigned, teaching the history of humanity and the mistakes of the past. Not as propaganda, but as lessons. The galaxy was transforming, slowly but surely, into a place where knowledge, empathy, and collaboration replaced dominance and fear. Humanity's example. Human ships continued to move across the stars, not as invaders but as teachers and helpers. Colonies that had been abandoned were revitalized. Worlds with failing ecosystems were healed. Entire star systems learned to manage energy, water, and resources with human guidance. Elias Kane visited worlds personally, speaking to leaders, citizens, and children alike. He reminded everyone of the lessons humanity had learned in silence, the cost of pride, the importance of unity, and the power of resilience. "Do not fear strength," he said to an assembly of young leaders on the planet Orionis Prime. "Use it wisely. Let it serve others. The galaxy belongs to all of us, not just the strongest." Across the Empire, humans became a symbol of hope, a mirror for what every civilization could achieve if it chose cooperation over conquest. The transformation of the Empire, even within the Imperial fleet, change was underway. Ships that had once carried weapons of destruction were now used to deliver aid, transport materials, and explore uncharted regions responsibly. Soldiers were retrained as engineers, builders, and mediators. Admiral Vereen watched as her fleet operated alongside humans, coordinating energy grids, transporting relief supplies, and mapping new trade routes. For the first time in her life, she felt a deep sense of purpose that had nothing to do with war. The Emperor himself traveled to worlds devastated by centuries of neglect. Witnessing firsthand the power of collaboration, he met humans, learned from them, and began to understand that leadership was not about control. It was about vision and service. Unity across the stars. Months passed. The galaxy began to shine in a way it had never known. Worlds previously isolated connected through safe trade routes. Civilizations once suspicious of one another began sharing resources and knowledge. Children learned to look up at the stars with wonder, imagining a future without fear. The human symbol, the circle crossed by a line, was painted in schools, on ships, and across cities. It became a universal sign, not of dominance but of hope, unity, and guidance. On Orlan Prime, the streets were filled with citizens celebrating this new era. Festivals honored not only humanity, but the renewed spirit of the Empire itself. Old rivalries faded. People began to dream again. Admiral Vereen stood among the crowd, smiling. "This is what we were meant to do," she said quietly. "Not rule, but guide, help, and protect." The Emperor's reflection. Late at night, the Emperor walked the gardens of the palace, looking at the glowing stars above. For centuries he had believed that power alone defined greatness. Now he understood that wisdom, restraint, and compassion were far more powerful. He thought of humanity, the lost species that had been written off as extinct. They had returned not to destroy but to inspire. Their example had humbled him, challenged him, and changed him. He whispered to himself, Perhaps this is the true destiny of the Empire, not to rule alone, but to rise together with all others. A lasting legacy. Years passed and the galaxy flourished. The Galactic Council became a permanent institution, with humans and Imperials working side by side. Technology advanced faster than ever, guided by principles of balance and fairness. Conflicts that once defined entire civilizations were now solved through dialogue, innovation, and shared knowledge. The story of humanity's return became legend. Children across the galaxy learned the tale of a lost species that rose from silence, survived in the shadows, and returned not with anger, but with purpose. The humans had reminded the galaxy of a simple truth. Strength without wisdom is dangerous, but strength with compassion can change worlds. On countless worlds, one phrase echoed among the people, whispered by leaders, students, and citizens alike: humanity does not conquer, humanity inspires. And in every corner of the stars, the light of unity shone brighter than ever before. Epilogue. Admiral Elias Kane stood on the bridge of unity, gazing at the glowing galaxies ahead. By his side were Vereen Solis and representatives from dozens of civilizations. "We've done more than survive," Kane said softly. "We've shown what is possible when hope guides action." Vereen smiled. "And the Empire has learned? Perhaps finally the galaxy will remember that compassion is stronger than fear." The stars stretched endlessly before them, a canvas of possibility, and across the vastness of space, humanity's fleet moved forward, not as conquerors, not as judges, but as beacons for every civilization willing to rise with them. For the first time in history, the galaxy truly belonged to all. The dawn had arrived,